Presents Survivor Stories.
After a frightening ordeal, a great night at the ballpark.
It was incredible. We usually buy pretty good seats, but we've never had anything quite like that.
Ashley Moberg and her father John were given free tickets to see their favorite baseball team, the New York Yankees, play this summer. The last time they saw the Yankees play at a spring training game in Florida, the unthinkable happened. They were struck by lightning while heading to their car after the game was suspended because of thunderstorms.
I was unconscious for a moment, and when I woke up, I was totally paralyzed. I couldn't move. My face was in the mud, and I couldn't move. And I started calling out to Ashley, who had been thrown many feet away from me.
The Mobergs, who are from Chicago and were visiting Tampa for spring break, spent 2 days in a hospital there before being released.
They did a bunch of scans to make sure the paralysis was temporary and there were no fractures or anything, and we had none of that.
4 months later, John says he's fully recovered from his injuries, which included a broken cheekbone. Ashley also recovered from being burned by the necklace she was wearing and got a tattoo for her recent birthday.
I got a lightning bolt right over the scar on my neck. I wanted something, even if the scar faded, permanent to remind me of it.
The father-daughter duo says given the rare odds of being struck by lightning, they feel lucky to be alive and realize that no one is exempt from weather-related hazards.
I've always felt like whatever the situation, I'll figure out a way out of it. And when you realize that there could be a point where you can't figure your way out, that's probably the only residual thing for me, is knowing that the vulnerability you have.
Reporting in Chicago for AccuWeather, I'm Emmy Victor.
We've been here, like I said, 26 years, and I've never been through anything like this.
Kelly and Greg Moffitt only had seconds to act. They received a warning on their AccuWeather app Monday night as a tornado barreled toward their rural neighborhood northeast of Jonesboro, Louisiana.
She got the warning on the AccuWeather map.
We got the alert. By the time it came through, I mean, it was just that fast.
Powerful wind ripped off parts of their roof. A tree came crashing down on the bathroom wall, where they took shelter inside.
My daughter got in the bathtub, and he didn't even make it over to the tub. Like I said, he had to throw himself against the bathroom door to keep it closed. She's in the bottom of the bathtub, and she's screaming. I'm laying on top of her. It was so loud, you couldn't even hear her screams.
Rounds of storms hammered the region for hours, drenching homes that were already damaged by the tornado.
It flooded everything in there. I bet it was at least 6 inches deep in the house with water.
What didn't get carted off by the tornado is underwater.
As families try to salvage anything they can from their damaged and soaked homes, neighbors and workers at a nearby paper mill are showing up with chainsaws and heavy equipment to help with the cleanup.
We are a big family. Anytime there's a disaster that comes through, we want to make sure that we rally around our team members, rally around our community.
The Moffitts say they're grateful for the support from total strangers and for the meteorologists tracking storms around the clock, helping families stay safe.
I'm very grateful, because if it wouldn't been for that, I'd still been sitting on that couch in there not knowing, what was going on.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell. Locking yourself out of the house without car keys is a headache. During a tornado warning, it's a true nightmare.
Got my purse, come out and got my car. I didn't have my keys. So I got a screwdriver out of my car and was trying to open my front door. I'm like, I don't have time for this.
With the storm barreling closer, Jennifer Patterson says she never made it to her son's home down the road to take shelter like she planned. Instead, she went into this ravine behind her mobile home and was on the phone with her son the entire time.
I just grabbed a hold of that tree. I had the phone to my ear, hugging the tree, my head between my arms, and I was just screaming, hollering, Jesus help me, Jesus help me, Jesus help me.
Trees came crashing down, slicing through Jennifer's mobile home and crushing her car. The clearing she took shelter in now covered with tree limbs and debris.
It's like God sent a big old bird that just made a nest around where I was at, and I was down in the middle of it.
Her safety plan fell apart in a split second, but Jennifer says her instincts to get to a low spot got her through the storm.
If you set out with a plan, to go to cover and something interferes like what happened to me, just use your intuition, and do what you need to do. And just trust the good Lord's going to bring you through it, because he did. Because that little old tree I was holding on to, he made it strong. He had that thing rooted for me.
In Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, for AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell.
The saying, "we're lucky to be alive," may not even be strong enough to describe what happened to 3 men that went fishing. Their boat sank in the Gulf of Mexico, leaving them stranded at sea for 28 hours.
I'm bobbing in and out the water. I'm drinking water. I'm like losing energy. It's like, I don't know how long I could do this.
Fong Lee and Lon Win were rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard, as well as their friend Sun Win.
He was pretty beaten up by the waves, beaten up by the salt water.
The two say while they were all fishing, the weather changed and their boat took on water from large waves.
It was pretty much just like you had to make a decision right then and there that the boat's not going to make it. Everybody need to put on their life vest. Everybody need to act quick.
To survive, they tied 2 ice chests together from their boat and hung on to it for dear life.
We grabbed the ice chest. We knew exactly that that's something that's going to float. It's filled with foam. It's well insulated.
4 hours they tried to reach offshore oil rigs, but the currents kept pushing them away.
We were trying to get out the water is one thing. And if you get high enough on a oil rig, maybe somebody could see you. Maybe you get phone signal.
They ended up having to spend the night in the water, which brought a new set of dangers.
We're just floating, and then next you know, a shark just bites the life vest right in front of me. It's like right here. I'm face to face with it. So I try to push him to get off to go away. It doesn't go anywhere. So I just take my thumbs and I just jammed it in his eyes, and he just took off.
At the 11th hour, their circumstances changed. Another attempt to swim for help put Lee in an area with cell service. He had just enough battery left on his phone to text his location to a friend, who then contacted authorities.
I told him that my boat sank and I'm floating in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. So that was my Hail Mary that was tossed out there.
When you saw the helicopters and you knew you were going to survive the situation, what went through your mind?
I felt a sign of relief. I felt like I didn't have to push anymore. I didn't have to keep fighting these currents. I didn't have to swim toward another oil rig. I can just relax.
Today, they're home in Louisiana, recovering from their injuries and sharing their story to help educate other boaters on what to keep handy.
Some reflectors or
something to reflect light.
A waterproof phone case would be also good.
A flare gun would be ideal.
Ultimately, they say this could have ended up a lot worse.
It didn't hit me until days later that how devastating it could have been when the Coast Guards were telling us we normally don't pick survivors out the water.
For AccuWeather, I'm Emmy Victor.
When you have that amount of water coming in from the roof.
Rachel Thierry's home was no match for Hurricane Laura in August 2020. The Category 4 storm brought winds to Lake Charles that topped 130 miles an hour. 6 weeks later, another hurricane blew through the city.
Delta came through and caused even more damage because at that point the roof was already exposed and water started coming in.
Lake Charles was hit by the deep freeze in February 2021, bursting pipes. Historic flooding left parts of the city underwater that May. Rachel did not have insurance. Nearly 2 years later, she's still living in a FEMA trailer in her backyard. Volunteers from churches and disaster groups have helped gut her home, clean up mold, and put in floors.
It's definitely a lot of work, and to know that they have people who are willing to come and take a week off from their life to come down here and help with their own funds, it really means a lot. And I really appreciate everything they've done.
The city's tallest office building and other businesses are left in disrepair, tied up in insurance battles. This March, federal leaders finally approved $1.7 billion in disaster relief for Louisiana.
We set a record for the amount of time it took to receive supplemental disaster aid. It took 10 days after Katrina. It took us over 400 days after Laura.
The mayor of Lake Charles says it's been a tough battle that's taken way too long.
This year, next year, it could be Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas. I hope that there's enough people that saw what we went through to realize that the system is flawed.
People from all over the country and even some other countries continue to be here volunteering.
The Community Foundation of Southwest Louisiana has been connecting storm survivors like Rachel with volunteer groups.
We're far enough out that people are now ready to have hope and ready to look to the future.
Foundation CEO Sarah Judson says they're now focused on a 50-year resilience plan for the region.
We want to be stronger for the next storm.
Some people, if you look around, they haven't had anything done. To have something done, to me, you know, that makes all the difference.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell.
Did you know in 1925, the tri-state tornado tore across Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana and was on the ground for 3.5 hours?
I was terrified, very terrified.
Tyrese Andrews knew just what to do when tornado warnings went off on cell phones inside his apartment.
We just started feeling the floor shaking, and we went in my room. We went in my mom's room. We got my stepdad up, and my mom, and told her to come in the bathroom.
It's a lesson the 12-year-old remembered from his teachers in Farmerville, Louisiana.
I learned it in school. Like, the safest place, I always go to the bathroom.
Just a few blocks down the road, Taishiba Wilson's apartment took a direct hit. She tells us she grabbed her 2- and 10-year-old daughters and her niece and got them to safety in a bathtub.
As we sitting down in the tub, I got one foot on the door and the other foot up on the counter, trying to hold the door while the wind is blowing, steady pushing us, steady pushing. I said, y'all pray.
The storm blew through within a matter of seconds, wrecking these apartments. Taishiba and the kids were okay. Mobile homes nearby were rolled and blown apart.
Wind blew the windows open, like all the windows are just busted out. Didn't know what to do. I just told them, y'all just pray and we're gonna get up out of here. And we did just that.
24 people in the region were injured. Taishiba says families impacted by the severe weather outbreak across the South need help before the holidays.
These kids can't enjoy Christmas because they done lost everything that their parents done got for them. So anything will do. I wouldn't care if it's hand-me-downs, anything brand new, anything will help these kids.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell. Joe Venuto has seen a lot in his 98 years.
World War II, yep. Lieutenant in the U.S. Navy, and I was a gunnery officer on a destroyer.
But this veteran has never experienced a storm quite like Hurricane Ian.
It's unbelievable. You know, we're on the golf course there, and the golf course was about this much underwater.
The wind and storm surge from the Category 4 hurricane ripped apart his home, washed away his car, and wrecked the only causeway to get on and off the island.
We've been married for 72 years.
Joe and his wife Nancy spent more than 48 hours on the island until help arrived from above.
They treated us really special, and I can't tell you how fortunate we are.
They deserve a lot of credit for the way they're helping people, and we extremely appreciate them.
A Coast Guard helicopter crew flew them out first to a hospital in Fort Myers. They came back hours later for their daughter, Lauren Davies, who was dropped off at a high school.
Everyone's great. This isn't easy for any of us. I was here at Charlie, Irma, everything. The surge was what no one ever understood.
The cats, Sammy and Pumpkin, made it through the storm too. Lauren and her parents want to return to Sanibel. They say it's home, but they know repairs will take months, if not years, and that their island and so many communities here across Southwest Florida will never be the same.
We figure we're checking out for a year.
You know, when you get as old as we are, you have a lot of things to remember and never think that this is the way it would be.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell.
I was just stuck there. Everything was on top of me. I couldn't move.
Within a matter of seconds, Linnell Posey's mobile home was blown apart.
after taking a direct hit from a tornado in Tangipahoa, Louisiana.
Next thing I know, I heard the whistling outside and the wind picked up so fast. Next thing I know, the roof was on and I was slammed through the front door.
Linnell says a police officer kicked in the door and pulled her and her dog Royal out of the debris.
I was trying to keep myself calm. He was helping me keep myself calm.
I heard the wind, and then I looked out the window and I saw debris flying and I was like, oh my God. And then I just heard boom, 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 boom. And then a few seconds later, maybe a minute, it was gone.
First responders and neighbors worked through the night in the rain and lightning to make sure Bonnie Carter and her neighbors were okay. The pastor of Browns Chapel Ministry Baptist opened the church doors as a shelter.
This is a devastating thing that happened, but we thank God. We thank God that nobody lost their life.
All I gotta say is have hope and take it one day at a time.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell. With the view of a tornado from his back window.
Pretty scary.
Sean Sullivan knew he only had seconds to get his family to safety.
The rain was going one way and the wind was going another direction. You could see it swirling, and then I just saw it drop down.
Sean, his wife, and 2 kids took shelter in the safest interior room that they had.
2-story house. Yeah, it's about 2,500 square feet. We went to the mud room, which is in the middle of the house, and put a mattress over the top of us, and it saved us.
The family was trapped for about 5 minutes, stuck under the heavy rubble.
Beams were on top of us, and so we couldn't get out there for a little while. We found a little hole to crawl out of. I thought we were goners.
Sean says his family had an underground storm shelter at their old house before they moved here. Now, they're already talking about getting a new storm shelter once they rebuild.
We had one in our old house, yeah, and we didn't use it, so I didn't put one in this house. But that was a mistake.
The Sullivan family is now staying with relatives nearby, trying to save anything they can and hoping to rebuild on the same hill. In Cole, Oklahoma, for AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell.
Did you know flying debris is the most dangerous and deadly part of a tornado?
What started as a thunderstorm approaching Lake Providence, Louisiana, quickly escalated to a tornado warning around 7:45 Friday night. The storm rapidly intensified as it crossed the Mississippi River. Just 20 minutes later, a tornado emergency was issued for Rolling Fork.
Going house to house looking for people. I mean, we're from here, so we were just trying to make sure everybody was okay.
First responders, neighbors, and storm chasers helped with search and rescues in the dark.
You got an extra hand here to help out. It's bad, it's bad. It ain't never been this bad in Rolling Fork.
Many people had no choice but to shelter in bathrooms and interior closets. There are not many storm shelters or basements in this part of the country. That's because the water table is so high and all of the clay soil.
We went down the storm cellar and about 15 minutes later, we heard it and the door flew open in the storm cellar and stuff started coming in and I started squalling, but we were okay.
Barbara Christopher is one of the few who has an underground shelter in her backyard. Gene Fulton was trying to get home but ran out of time. His pickup was flipped by the tornado.
Just slamming us to the ground, picking it up, slamming us, just back over and over and over and over. Then when it stopped, we could climb out, so the truck's on his roof.
Gene was able to crawl out and get to safety after the storm passed. He wants to stay and rebuild his home and shop, hoping Rolling Fork can recover from this devastating storm.
But thankfully, I'm here. We're here. It's bad, though. Real bad. I ain't never experienced nothing like it. Hope I'll never do it again.
For AccuWeather, I'm Bill Waddell.